chair of the committee. Tonight we are joined by Zoom and by District Manager Jesus Perez. The meeting is called to order at 6:33 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature. Members of the public who are here in person, we do not have any, but if they were here, they would raise their hand. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. CB6 Assistant Secretary Jerry Weinstein will now take minutes. Oh, no, sorry. He's taking the minutes and Jesus is going to take the attendance. After that, yes, Jesus will now conduct the roll call.
All right.
Oh, Justin raised his.
We sent him a panelist invite. Maybe he didn't get it, but he's probably stuck in attendee purgatory.
Mm.
Okay, that should fix it. All right, I will be beginning the roll call now. Neil Barkley, not here yet. Elvie Barroso.
Present.
Thank you. Stuart Desser.
Here.
Thank you. B. Disman.
Present.
Thank you. Jason Fromowitz. Not that I can see yet. Justin Goldberg.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great.
No, we don't see you.
Yeah, let me work on that one.
All right. John Keller.
Present.
Nadine Kalani. I guess Steve is here for Nadine Kalani.
I'm here.
All right, Anton Melner.
Present.
Thank you. Sandy McKee.
Present. Present.
Thank you. Alec Militek.
Present.
Thank you. Gabe Turzo.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Weinstein.
Present.
All right, with 10 of 13 members duly present, you have 10.
Great. The agenda for tonight's meeting is reflected on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the April 16th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. If you have any objections, please raise your hand. Seeing no objection, the minutes from the April 16th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Ground rules, no one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question or wish to raise the motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you to speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about business, you can raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you to speak. It's extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. And I've got to reiterate this, I actually listen to the Zoom meetings and if two people are talking, you cannot tell what's being said. So just, if you don't watch a lot of them, it's hard to understand. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions. So chair's report, we're going to jump right in. And this is maybe maybe more appropriate during one of the committee discussions, but we had the Lenape resolution passed in the Budget and Government Affairs Committee. And I don't know if, well, either Steve or Reshma, do you want to give just a brief description of what it was? Because there's been a fair amount of discussion of this since that was passed.
I'm happy to do it, Steve, if you want me to.
Go ahead, Reshma.
Yes.
So we had brought this up at our April meeting and discussed it, and members of the committee felt that it was a good idea to have a land acknowledgement at the start of CB6 meetings because a lot of cultural institutions in New York and educational institutions have all been doing so for some time now. And so, you know, we're in the part of our committee meetings where we do the governmental affairs part. So this was an issue that I brought up that we should discuss. And then we had a vote on the resolution in the May meeting. And, you know, we had, whereas in April, everyone was unanimously for it, this time it passed with, I don't know how many yeses there were, but we had one abstention and one no. I'm forgetting the full count on that, but so, you know, I understand that logistically, then there was questions on, you know, would it be for all the committee meetings, the full board, how would it go? And I know there's other discussions that have happened internally after that. And, you know, all I say is that this was something that we brought up because, as I said, the committee in the spring tries to think of ideas of ways that we think are good government policies that we should discuss. But if this is not something that the full board wants to do, we are in no way going to push for it to happen. And we understand that logistically and for other reasons, they may not happen.
Well, it passed the committee. I mean, so theoretically, it should go to full board and let the board decide. But I mean, we noticed, I know even in the committee, there was discussion of like, is it every meeting, who gets to decide? And I don't know if people are familiar with it, but basically the resolution just says that this should be, the therefores are, Community Board 6 formally acknowledges that it meets and conducts its work on the traditional homeland of the Lenape people and expresses respect and gratitude to the Lenape and all Indigenous people, past, present, and future. And that CB6 will include the following land acknowledgement at the beginning of its meetings and prominently on its website and relevant materials. And then we acknowledge that Manhattan Community Board 6 is situated on the traditional lands of the Lenape people. We honor the enduring relationship between Indigenous peoples and this land, and we commit to reflecting on our responsibilities as good stewards of this land. And then CB6 will continue to explore meaningful ways to engage with and support Indigenous communities. So there's no consensus on when this would be said or how often or every committee or so it's a little bit unclear. And my guess is it might be discussed and sent back to committee, but I wondered if people had thoughts or.
On the resolution in general, but the Lenape Nation, they're involved with Stuyvesant Square Park. Has anyone reached out to that group to, you know, to ask someone from the nation, how do they feel about it? Is this something that they would support? Do they even want, you know, someone to say that? How do they view it? And so I really think we need to confer with someone from the Lenape Nation. I think we need to speak to them because, yeah.
I think that's an excellent point. Reshma, would that be something maybe the committee could take up before we extend this to full board?
That's a great idea. And I think that was Neil, right? I can't see.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, it was Neil.
Yeah, from the voice. And Neil, if you can put me in touch with that person. So what we put in here, there is a member of our committee who works for an arts institution. And so he provided the guidelines of what is done at his museum that they work on, and they have a pretty extensive land acknowledgement that they do before every event that happens at their museum. And we didn't want to, when I wrote the resolution, I didn't want to take everything from someone else's museum, right, and put it in there. So I just came up with this. But as Neil points out, I think it's really good to get input, which we did not from someone who's from the Lenape Nation. And so I think that I'm happy to do that.
Great. I think that sounds like a good solution. And then, you know, if it gets modified, we can talk about it again. But I also think we need a recommendation of when it would be said. Steve, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just on that point, Sandy, I think one modification that we had sort of talked offline on was perhaps allowing, essentially putting some guidance as far as when it would be appropriate to do this. And we had suggested perhaps we do it once a year at full board during Native American Heritage Month, which sort of makes sense. It would call attention to it at a time of year that it makes sense. And then we can say, you know, we empower the chair or any other committee chairs to decide to use it whenever it seems appropriate during the year. And that way we acknowledge it and we have it there and people can use it kind of in a more flexible way.
Oh, sorry.
So I mean, I think it's pretty clear from the resolution. It says that the beginning of its meetings. I interpret that to mean the beginning of all meetings, and I think that's fine and appropriate. I just got back from Australia a couple months ago, and it was very prominent in Australia at the start of when we landed the airplane. A similar land acknowledgement was made. I actually like took note of it, that it was interesting how often it came up, and I thought it was appropriate and progressive, and I questioned why we didn't do it here. So I mean, I generally supportive of this, and I think it's I think the resolution is clear enough, and I think it's appropriate to the start of all meetings. I do have concerns with doing this only at the start of meetings on Native American Heritage Month, just in that I'm not opposed to doing things to acknowledge different cultures at each meeting, but I think it then opens the door to like, well, then how come we're not doing for XYZ Heritage Month? And I think we just opened the door for like a complicated set of acknowledgements we have to make at the start of each meeting. So I think it makes sense to do this universally. I don't think it makes sense to do it on a particular cultural significant month.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Steve, though. I think the risk of doing it at every meeting is it just becomes something someone reads
As
to get
we,
the meeting started.
Yeah.
Sort of like Sandy.
as we know happens.
Meeting things that starts the meeting. So that's my concern about that. And secondly, I think Neil's point was very good, that we want to be sure we're not doing something that people find condescending, or maybe we want to talk to the people it affects.
I think we've had years now, and we could really see, it's a good check-in about
Yeah.
how does that fall on the ears of people who are being spoken of.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, and there are a couple different aspects here. I think also, well, we are a government agency, right?
Yeah.
More or less.
Yes. we
So
are
I
government.
don't know, I haven't looked with the Lenape Nation. They may be federally recognized. Does that, prohibit them from, having any type of recognition from a government agency, city, local, state? So I think
Mhm.
when we speak to them, that will probably help.
Yeah. Reshma, well,
There's some things
Oh,
up.
Can I just give further information? So because I was the one who wrote the resolution, I did say its meeting, which I thought every meeting. So that was, but I understand the confusion that came up, which in our Monday meeting last week, as well as right now. So I should have been clear on that. The secondly, while I'm not talking to the Lenape Nation about this and the Lenape people that are in our district in Stuyvesant Square Park, I am on 2 nonprofit boards where we do this, and I have spoken to Lenape Nation about it, and we've worked out a land acknowledgement with discussions with that, as well as a university alumni board I'm on. So this is, for me, it's done very commonly. I think if you go to the public theater, go to Lincoln Center, so many arts institutions in this city, I've seen it being done at too. So it's not an uncommon thing. And having not spoken to the Lenape, again, in our district, which I'd want to do, I have spoken to other Lenape people and worked with them to develop this.
okay, well, we'll see what happens after the discussion and we'll move on from there. Great, thank you. Next item, we have a full board. We passed the resolution for the LinkedIn campaign. And Justin has some images that he's going to share with us, I think. We were going to do this at full board, but time got away with us, I think. So,
Noise.
yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. What's the best way to do that? I share from my screen?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, give me 1 second.
And while that's going on, the next topic is going to be onboarding we have our 8 new members, and what we're going to do is have 2 sessions in person. One is June 4th, and the other, I think, is June 30th. And any recommendations that people have for things that they found during the year that new members needed more guidance on, we're happy to incorporate it. So, and someone's actually asked if they can join Ball because it
Oh
sounded
my
like
God.
so much fun.
Is that well?
Yeah. So, but we'll add members to committees probably in September. We'll give them a month to hopefully come to committee meetings and take a look at what's going on. And
I think you should encourage all the new members to attend at least one committee,
yeah,
be it virtually or in person, just so they can anticipate what it would be like, because I remember I did not attend any committees before I was placed in the two that I joined. But it might change new members' perceptions of what they want, or might change
yeah,
their understanding of how committees run, or even what the topics of discussion are in the committee. So I think that would be maybe some homework that you can assign them.
yeah. I've highly recommended that they attend. I haven't told them that it's mandatory.
Or even watch the recordings online.
Yeah.
It's another.
We've had at least 2 people attend a committee meeting, so that's all good. Justin, how are you doing there?
Good. I'm ready to share it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So this is what I came up with. See if I can get it. Screen. Here you go. So, oh, no. Wait, can you guys?
Not yet. Okay,
Yeah, can you see the image?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this is what I came up with. Actually, this is no longer. Wait, what am I sharing now? Work stuff. Hold on one more time. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so this is the image I came up with. It's gonna, I'd have to edit a few things still to make sure that everything fits in. Like as you see at the bottom, it says Manhattan Community Board, but I have to change if like I have to add
Can you
6
Do you
and
mind moving the captioning for us? Thank you. No.
I don't know how to get rid of this. There we go. Yeah, so this has to be changed a little bit. So it says Manhattan Community Board 6. But the idea is it would say Manhattan Community Board 6. It would have the logo and it would have a QR code, and beneath that it would say CB6, and you can scan it and look right at it. And somebody who is crossing by the street would be able to take their phone and it would take them right to the CB6 website. What I tried to do here is I tried to include as many CB6 landmarks. I know, Sandy, the first one I sent you was it had Grand Central, but Grand Central isn't in CB6 actually. So what I did is I have what is it called? The UN building. I actually have St. Vincent's Dome in another version of this. But the idea is just, it's saying basically clean streets, has some imaging of a variety of people, tries to be a little bit kind of pleasant with, like some birds singing. There's a trash here. Further images, and like in the future, I tried putting like Roosevelt Island and the bridge across, but it actually affects the quality of the image generation. But this would just be the first image. The problem is that the more like people you have in it, or the more landmarks you have, it actually reduces the quality of the overall image. So this would just be the first one. The first image I actually came up with had like there was like a woman with a disability in it. It was a little bit, had a few more different types of people, but it's difficult to fit that many people in an image and keep the high quality. So my thought was to have this as the first image. Next month have something that's more focused on, let's say, somebody with a disability, Roosevelt Island or something like that. So we don't have to fit in all the ideas in the first iteration. But yeah, what's everybody's thought on it? Is this something that people like? Is this something people don't like?
So one question, why the $ for smart?
Yeah, that's just something I was thinking of. That I wanted to bring that up too. Just because I was trying to make a connection with like there, not having any fines. I know that like I was talking to a bunch of my friends in marketing, and they said, it's great to have. It's good to say like be clean, whatever, but having some kind of like accountability is good too. But that was actually something I wanted to ask about if I should just remove that $.
I would take it out,
Okay.
These
Okay.
days it infers, an intelligent appliance. So you don't want to confuse people that this is a compactor or a robot on the street.
Okay, yeah, maybe it's just too busy anyway with that.
I mean, has anyone gotten a littering fine in the last decade? I mean, I wonder if I love this. I think this is terrific and I hate litter. But I do wonder, do we want to talk about the fine? Because I like trash-free, rat-free, cleans, smells better. I love all that. I don't know if we want to include fine language or not.
Well,
Yeah.
fine, I mean, if we're talking littering, then the fine may not be
Yeah.
real, but this is also about, putting your trash out on the street, I think, and, I mean, I think it's more expansive than just a waste basket.
And Elvie actually had her hand raised.
Yeah, I
And they-
feel the same way as what you said, the fine, that would be confusing to the rest of the people. We didn't say that it's not, it can be feeling, or it can be just money wise. So it's confusing, that fine free.
Yeah, I kind of struggled with that too, which is Sandy, the other one I gave you, I said like citation free, but that just sounds too lawyerly. I don't know, I'm just trying to have a little bit of accountability. So, I mean, human nature, people look by and like, oh, trash, like nobody really gets fines. I'm not saying you're gonna get a fine, but I thought it, might be interesting to throw that in there. But if people don't feel like that's a good idea, I can remove that and we can find a different word to kind of have some punch. And it doesn't even have to do with fines.
Sandy, my raised hand doesn't work, so whenever you're
Oh,
ready.
okay, sorry. And you're covered with, the text right now, so please go right ahead.
So I like the idea of the post-it, but I do have a problem with your images. The woman is the woman of the 50s in a suit. And so I really think there should be a more current figure, because people are not gonna, my first reaction when I looked at it is she on her way to business? What is it? It's too formal. People will react that, oh, this is a bygone era.
So do you think it would be, I still felt, I kind of, for the first image, I thought having the redhead woman was pretty striking. But I can put her in a more kind of, like, I like the 50s, I like the 50s imagery, but I can have her be dressed in more modern clothing, if that makes sense.
That would make a big difference, and please don't do a flip.
What do you mean a clip?
A flip of the hair up.
Oh, okay, yeah, I mean, I didn't do that. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I know, but in seeing a lot of stuff that's the retro back to the 50s, people just walk by them. So you need to have a little more currency. I love the idea. I love what you said on it, but the imagery was a concern. Thank you.
Yeah, I can modernize it a little bit. I do like kind of I was aiming for like kind of one of those, I don't know if you guys have been to Disneyland recently, but it's like a kind of a Disney poster type style, something you might like see walking into Space Mountain. But I can make it look a little bit more modern, so that it looks, people can relate more to the aesthetic.
Anton?
So long as we make it more modern, that's type of trash can hasn't been used in the last 20 years.
I can make the trash can more modern if you guys think.
I think.
I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect representation. It's, kind of people imagining stuff. So I don't think it has to be perfectly modern. With the buildings in the trash can, I think it can be a little bit more retro, but I do understand the concern with the woman, because when people see it, they walk by and they think of themselves in it. So that I can understand that makes sense to me.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on the fine issue. I also think it's confusing to talk about fines. So
yeah, I might
prefer
remove
not to use it.
Okay. Can you guys think of a third, like trash, rat, maybe?
Well,
I mean, I could just have those two.
my guidance would be about how this raises the, brings us closer to the community along those lines. So
Okay,
you
I
don't
can
have
include-
to.
No,
Sorry, we're gonna go to Jesus and then to Elvie.
Why not just trash-free, rat-free? That's it. And then clean streets, feel and smell better, you know.
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
fine.
need that Stuff, it's not so cluttered that way.
Yeah, and
Elvie?
what do you, yeah, sorry, Jesus, what were you saying?
yeah, you can also put smell free.
I think that's kind of awkward. Like the phrase smell free seems kind of awkward to me. I think it might be better to keep in that clean streets, feel and smell better and just end there, remove the next line. And then I could even put at the bottom where it says Manhattan Community Board, I could say something like, get involved with your local community too.
Yeah. Okay,
And
Gabe.
I'm not an artist, but the color scheme kind of strikes me as smoggy. Like,
Yeah, the other version I have is like blue in the background. So it would be a blue sky.
We've had days like that.
Yeah, okay, I think it's great. So we're gonna start this in, I guess, July and August. Is that the goal?
Well, there are
Really,
fewer-
no, I mean, once this is done, I think it takes them like 5 to 10 days to,
Okay, so we're gonna
So-
start right away as soon as we get something that
yeah.
you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, so how about I come up with a finalized image, in the next day or two, and then I'll email it out to everybody, and we can confirm it and go from there. And any other
Great.
edits or anything, but yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is this the only one? I thought there were other pictures.
There was, but this is the one I'm just using for you can only use one a month.
Do you want to share the other?
I mean, I focused on this one for this. I mean,
Yeah, let's do it 1 month at a time.
yeah,
Okay.
we can start working on the second one. And I can start, this would just be for the first month, but we can start talking about what we want to do for the next month.
So we won't meet, we do meet in June.
Yeah. Okay, great, thank you. And so, onboarding, we've covered, the Charter Commission. I know some of the other boards are really focusing on this because there's concern about what gets put on the ballot, and they're focusing on the mayor's charter revisions because his go first. I don't know if we don't have much time to do anything else. We did one, gave testimony mostly about ULURP because that's something they've highlighted. But if there's any other concerns, we really need to get moving on them. he listened or he summarized the mayors. Anything that came up in that?
No, nothing that jumps right now but I'll send it around. I used ChatGPT to summarize the meeting.
Okay.
I hope we can, I listened to all 9
Yeah.
hours.
We had a discussion about that last night. Some changes to committees, mostly people leaving, so things have sort of, as you can see, Alec is with us this evening as the chair of housing. Gabe is the chair of land use and waterfront. There may be some other modifications coming. And we're still trying very hard to make sure that we let new people, and actually, LV is stepping back from being chair of health and environment. She's got a very busy future. And she's starting her own not-for-profit, so RuPaul will be taking over. Long-term, some of our long-term chairs are, handing over the baton. So we're still trying to make sure that new members get experience and will be able to take over when term limits start in. Borough Board, I sent out the siren reso. Interestingly, the rest of the boards said it's a big problem for them as well. So we're going to see if something happens on that. And we're trying to interact more with some of the other boards in Manhattan. We've been contacting some of them about housing studies. Questions for our elected officials. So when they do come to our meetings, it's a good chance to try and have a question that we want to ask them that they can't squirm out of. So of course, we don't always know who's coming, but I think it's a good chance to sort of press some of the issues that we do have. So maybe it's a good opportunity to do that, to do more of that. We met with the Department of City Planning. Alec, are you gonna comment on that or do, on the
Last week.
last
right?
week?
Oh, right, because it was part of the
It-
points of agreement that the Spark campus had, so.
Actually, it was Innovation East.
Oh, it was Innovation East, excuse me. So we met, I believe Gabe was there.
Gabe was there as well, yeah.
We met with city planning as well as two of our local elected officials representatives. And it was essentially an hour in which we had a discussion with city planning about how we'd like to see, excuse me. Different kinds of land use changes to the community district in order to spur more housing. They really couldn't promise anything, unfortunately, but they did mention this Manhattan plan. And they encouraged us to attend public meetings, I believe, which are occurring later this month and next month. And they were light on details, so we really don't know how this plan will affect our community district, but hopefully we can find out more. And I believe we're gonna continue having discussions with them, pressing them, because what we really want is something that is specific and unique to our community district, not a Manhattan borough-wide plan that might cover a lot of different areas, because I think we just want something that's focused on here and that's unique to us and our situation and circumstance.
And since it was Carlina Rivera's district, her representative pushed back on city planning that, you know, meeting with us once was not the intention
Right.
of the whole process. So hopefully they will follow through with some more information. One other thing, I've been talking to Jesus about doing a public hearing about the impacts of local law 11. I think it's a lot of interest to building owners, to co-ops, to condos, which we do have a lot in our district. And I'm hoping we might be able to do that in September. It'll take a little while to get people to be interested in it and to sort of advertise it. We'd like to hear from the public and the community, because it's not something the board's taken up, but I think it is a concern. And that's it for my report. We're now here from Jesus Perez, CB6's district manager.
I'll wait this one.
Okay.
I feel like I say a lot already.
So next on our agenda is a discussion of the proposed scope of work for the environmental review of the Freedom Plaza Casino project. And Gabe prepared a resolution for us to take a look at. And just as a little bit of background, this was, and maybe Jesus, you can help us with some of the dates. When was this actually issued?
It was issued earlier this month. However, no notification at all was sent to the community boards in Manhattan. The reason we found out about it a few days ago is because my colleague, my counterpart at Manhattan Community Board 4, called me and asked me if I'd seen this. I said I had not. And he only had heard that it was out. I did some digging online and found the actual documents. And so then he did Community Board 5, who also has a casino project in the mix. And they sprang into action and started calling their elected officials to ask what the meeting behind all this was, why we weren't notified. Supposedly the borough president's office was notified, but we've never heard from them about this. And as soon as I found out, I told all the relevant members here on this board, so.
And it came up at Borough Board as well. There was, people were quite upset because it's a very significant part of the whole process and to not be notified. So they've now extended it by a week.
Until when?
June
10th.
June 10th,
Oh, that's the extension.
Which still doesn't get us over forward.
over full board. So, and I guess, did I see your raised hand? Sorry, Jason.
Would somebody mind explaining what the draft environmental impact statement is and how that works? I have no context whatsoever.
Yeah, so very quickly, we went through the design scope of work for the proposed casino site, and we are allowed to comment on any aspect of, under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, we're allowed to comment on any one of, I think, the 18 or so, excuse me, factors there. If we want to speak as a board, we have to have something in resolution form. So we have things as a board that speak to traffic, that speak to resiliency, that speak to a couple different things. We have a reso from a couple years ago said we have significant concerns about public safety, noise, sanitation, transportation issues, and a few other things. But we went back through our resolution history, and we never actually mentioned a lot of these other things that are of concern, and we feel should be studied in the draft environmental impact study. And in order for us to comment as a board, we felt that we had to have a resolution mentioning these things specifically. So this isn't about our feelings at the moment about the water use and the amount of waste it's going to generate and all of that. It's really just acknowledging topics just so we have a resolution that gives us the policy backing to speak as a body on them.
So is our interest beyond the scope of what is listed in the resolution and which mirrors what's listed in the proposition?
Yes, so I pulled, those are all the topics that are listed and that are sort of legally permissible to be considered under the SEQRA.
Right, but I'm saying what you have in the resolution just mirrors what the proposal says.
Exactly, because we don't actually know yet. We have till the 10th. We probably want to talk about certainly water use, certainly waste management, but we don't want to hem ourselves in energy use. We don't want to hem ourselves in to limit ourselves to only talk about one or two or three things, when the more we dig into this design proposed scope of work, the more things that jump out to us as red flags. So we thought the best course of action would be to list all of the permissible aspects of design review, put it in one reso, and then this will give us cover to speak as a body on any one of these.
So I remain confused, which is my normal state, so that's not shocking. But what we have in front of us right now, from the engineering and environmental consulting firm, is a proposal for the scope of the environmental review. All we seem to be doing, once that scope is determined, we will be entitled to comment on any of it. I mean, there's no limitation on us once that scope is approved. Yeah, so if every item in your resolution is approved, and it should be because it's also in their proposition, then we're not limited. We don't have to tell them now, well, we're gonna comment on all of this stuff. All we need to do is, if we're not asking to expand the scope, we can just say we endorse this scope. But
That's the concern. We're not saying we endorse the scope. We're saying we'd like to make comments on the scope. And we don't have any resolutions in place from the full board that allow us to make some of those comments.
So we might want to expand the scope, in other words.
I'm not sure we can expand this. I look to Alec because he deals with these more than I do.
The draft scope of work outlines what the environmental impact statement will study.
Right.
And so when we submit comments before June 10th, those comments, and anyone can submit them, it doesn't have to be a community board, it can be an individual, so be it. The comments to the draft scope of work ask that the future environmental impact statement studies something else or studies this. And so what we're doing here is we're reserving the right to comment on additional things we would like to see studied in the eventual, or in the prepared environmental impact statement.
But
These
we're
aren't
not,
currently in that scope?
Correct.
Understood now. Thank you, sorry.
And, sorry, do you have it back? Because B has her hand raised.
I'll come in later.
Okay, B?
Yeah, so I think it's important to list all these items, but the one item, and I don't know if any of you looked at it, what does it mean by social economic conditions when you have that in a number of these other items?
Well, we just wanted to cover everything that they listed as a,
But did they give any understanding of a couple words as to what that is?
These are the titles of the sections of the analysis that will be studied. The socioeconomic conditions is defined in SECRA. It covers things from, off the top of my head, it covers things from like, income, and it covers things from, like household income and household size and different kinds of socioeconomic conditions. The exact specific conditions are defined in SECRA.
So in other words, it's the environment upon which they're building in, the economic environment.
And yeah, in short, in summary, sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Anton?
I'm a little confused here because when you do an environmental impact statement or environmental study, there are legal mandates that you have to abide by. And my question is, are these what are legally required, or this is in addition to legal requirements? I don't know what we're doing over here in terms of that.
Those are the legal requirements.
Minimum legal requirements.
Right.
Those are listed with the NYCRR 617, I think, that.
The section of the city charter that you're.
No, this is the state rules and regulations.
Oh, that just outlines the process, I believe, right? Or is that, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I think that one outlines the process, or it outlines what is to be studied. I'm not so sure.
Right, that's what I'm just asking, because Anton is saying of these specific subjects listed in the city.
I would imagine, right? Because you pulled them from
Yeah,
the draft scope of work document.
Well, he pulled them from the scope of work document by the consultant.
Right.
So
And the consultant has to prepare the environmental assessment pursuant to that thing that you cited.
So that's fine, so I'm still asking what we are trying to say, so far, we sound like we're just endorsing what the consultant said. If we say we want to reserve the opportunity to expand on the subject matter, then that's what I think we should be saying.
We want to have the opportunity to comment on all of these issues.
But this is just the scope. Of course, we have the opportunity to comment on all of them, right?
Our comments can include things that can expand the scope, or it can shrink the scope.
Getting it on the record.
Right.
Since we were excluded.
Right. We technically are supposed to do things as a board, not as a bunch of people sitting around, So we're looking for backing from our board to go ahead and write comments about this particular document.
About the scope, not about the.
Correct.
About the scope. So, I mean, one of the things, for instance, that came up is the water usage is something like 5 gallons below what would change it from being substantial to critical. So, we want to say, please look at this more carefully, because we feel that it's maybe not accurate, that so many things are just below the level where it would require additional investigation.
That doesn't change the scope of the company.
It would.
It could.
It would.
yeah, so for example,
Who determines the scope? Is there a legally mandated minimum
Yes.
scope that has to be covered?
Right.
So this could be interpreted some ways, like we talked about 5 gallons versus 10 gallons per participant or whatever. And the judgment of whether it's a 5 gallon or a 10 gallon, that's the consultant that's making that decision. He just has to address the this is what we looked at. And he's got to give hopefully a reasoning why he talked about 5 gallons as opposed to 10 gallons.
And unless someone questions it,
Yeah.
they won't have to.
Yeah.
So we'd like to question it, like, please clarify, this seems underestimation in terms of what the project is going to be.
Yeah, so I'll give an example, I think, that helps. So what traffic, right, Alec, I'm still you're pointing at. They proposed, studying the pedestrian experience at 11 adjacent intersections. We are turning around and saying, we want you to study hospital access on First Avenue, not just a handful of intersections adjacent. So with their threshold of studying the traffic effects does not meet what we want them to study. So we're saying you have to do a much more granular study.
So I'm fine if we want to say we want to change, we want to expand the scope. I think
We're not expanding the scope, we're asking them to have the scope that's appropriate for this development.
Oh, I think it's the same. I think what we want to say then is that there was not, assuming there was not appropriate notification. So we did not have the opportunity that legally we're entitled to have to comment on the proposed scope. And so I don't think we're in a position right now to say what we think the scope should be. I think what we want to say is, the deadline should be extended so that we have the opportunity.
They extended it by a week.
Yes, but that doesn't. That's not
Exactly,
enough.
but what makes you think they're going to extend it more based on our resolution?
Well, I don't know what else our resolution accomplishes. That's
Well,
all.
even if the deadline was extended, right, we have resolutions regarding the casino traffic. We don't have resolutions regarding water use in a casino. So it is kind of the feeling of the board that we need a resolution addressing water use. Then this would give us. So then we write and say, we need you to look more deeply at the water use on this site. We are skeptical of your estimates or whatever, right? It likely reaches a critical threshold versus a moderate threshold. And we can ask for more detail and ask for better studies, but we can't do that unless we have something like this. Whereas for traffic, we could ask them to go deeper without this. But for water, energy use, we actually do need this piece of paper.
Makes sense?
Not to me, but other hands have been up.
Well, Jerry, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm a civilian here, but this popped out at me when I glanced at it. The fact that they're citing within the project site 2007 flood insurance rate maps. And I'm wondering, since it's gonna be 20 years old, if that is custom.
Yeah, that's custom. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
because we have great
Until they-
changes.
Until they change the flood maps, they'll use the.
Those, yeah, that's custom.
B,
So I'm a little confused. Can't we comment on this without the resolution? We comment on many other stuff. Why do we need, I mean, I will support the resolution because I think we should comment it. But I'm trying to understand the process. If we see something and we want to comment on, we write up a resolution and comment. Why do we have to list all these areas?
because we won't have it, we actually don't have time to write a full-fledged resolution before full board and have it pass. So we're trying to sort of work our way through the system. We're trying, if this passes here, we feel it will give us more ability to make those kinds of comments.
I guess that's where I'm at a loss because you would make those comments anyway.
Well, I must say that at Borough Board, other boards felt they needed that kind of backing of the full board to proceed. I personally am fine with not having the backing of the full board, but you know, it is a very controversial proposal. And we want to try and do everything in a straightforward, clear way. That's all. Jason.
So if I'm now understanding, I think this is that we're gonna pass this resolution and then offline, there's going to be comments that don't go through a resolution to comment on each of these things. And so we're passing this resolution in order to allow Sandy to
The committee,
provide comments?
the committee.
Alec.
We've solicited the committee.
Community board, I guess.
Yeah,
But then what are we commenting on, I don't know, so never mind, I understand. I don't know if never mind, but thank you. Next question.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so basically, the intent here is so that we have the ability to make comments.
Right,
Period.
that's it.
We don't, do we even have to list all these sections?
Probably not. We could just say, I'm sorry, can I borrow your? We can just say that, recognizes its right to provide comments on any, the first whereas, therefore be it resolved that Community Board 6 will provide comments on the. I mean, that makes it even simpler.
And it's not gonna go through full board, so all you can do is present it as something that was passed by a committee, but is not the official word of Community Board 6.
Yeah.
But in exigent circumstances, exec can act, can pass a resolution.
And it can be affirmed at full board after.
Do we need this at all then? Like, why not just pass resolutions in committee commenting on these things that don't go through full board and do that through the extenuating circumstances?
I mean, partly because we don't have any meetings until June 10th, It's hard to even get another, so we sort of found out about this the day before the land use and water.
And housing met on Monday, land use met yesterday, so
Yeah.
neither of those committees would be.
There could be a special meeting?
I'm busy that day.
What's Borough President's office involvement in this?
Right,
I mean,
his-
that's who should,
What I might advise is, so the comment period for written comments was extended by a week. That takes us to June 10th. Unfortunately, our full board is June 11th. So that does mean, though, that these comments will be written up by June 10th, the day before full board, because they have to be written up by June 10th, the day before full board. Once they're written up, whether they be in resolution form or whether they be in letter form, why not then that text can be brought from the floor at full board to be reaffirmed at that point. Because then at least there you'll have the actual comments that were made. And full board can either go up or down.
Second.
If that works for everyone, I think that's fine.
so we're gonna vote after the deadline to submit comments.
Yeah.
That they can then
Already
reject
submitted.
because it's after the deadline.
Right,
No, it would still be before
So.
we'll
Beyond the
submit them, we have to submit them. If we're
The
gonna.
deadline for these comments is June 10th. Full board is the night of June 11th.
Oh,
But there is precedent for doing this before, there have been things with Heliport, for example, that were very time sensitive. That came out in a letter form and then subsequently were ratified at a full board after the fact. It's not entirely unheard of.
Stu?
I think that Borough President's office should be taking this up because this is. I mean, I don't know what the legal mandates are. And if, they listed in the back of the Irish Times that there was, that was their notification. But if they either followed the rules or they didn't, and it seems like, the problem for all of the boards is that we didn't get notification on a timely basis. The Borough President should be looking at this and I think taking legal action if it's appropriate.
Well, I think we got a week's extension because the borough president looked into it.
Yes, but that's obviously inadequate. That's a
So I believe what they did was they sent out a general email that probably went into the spam box of everybody. And I mean, we can say that, but that ship's gonna sail and we're gonna be, if we don't do comments.
We were not included in that. We were not included, but it's not clear that legally they had a requirement to include us.
They probably notified our elected officials. I mean, we have no position on the committee that approves it, so. B, you had.
So
your
why
hand.
don't we go to what I think was suggested, to simplify it, to say that we plan to comment, on it, without listing all the items, because that's confusing, and then go to what Jesus indicated, that the committee writes, it'll have to be a letter or, commenting, and we take it up at the full board on the 11th. So I would recommend that as the process.
We have someone to second that? So we have a modified resolution. And I'll just read the title. The resolution concerning Manhattan Community Board 6 right to comment on relevant facts of the secret process for the Freedom Plaza Draft Environmental Impact Statement, DEIS. And it will have the first whereas, and that therefore will be modified that Community Board 6 affirms its intention to consider and provide input.
So first, I would add in the preface that we were not given timely notice, which is why we're doing this. And secondly, I wouldn't say that we recognize the right of the board. I mean, we should say the board has the right. And it's actually the company, the sponsor that has to recognize that we have the right.
That's fair.
Okay, so Community Board 6 has the right to provide comments. Okay, I think we'll move, can we do, anyone objecting?
Can we maybe go back and sort of go through these amendments again, because I didn't catch them?
I can give you my marked up paper, but, basically, whereas Manhattan Community Board 6 has the right to provide comments on any relevant facet of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, process for the draft environmental impact statement, DEIS, for the proposed Freedom Plaza Gaming and Recreation facility at 700-708 First Avenue in the Murray Hill neighborhood of Manhattan Community District 6. Therefore, be it resolved that Manhattan Community Board 6 affirms its intention to consider and provide input.
Okay, and the rest of all this listed stuff, gone.
Gone.
And we don't want to say that that the whole point of this is that we weren't given timely notice.
I think it's okay. But
Well, I mean, because then they say, well, of course you have the right. You had the right. We gave you a deadline. You didn't satisfy it.
This isn't to go to them, right?
no,
But this is like to give cover, to give permission for the board to
to
put
do
out
this. Yeah,
comment. So like, yeah, this doesn't get distributed to anyone.
I would still, I mean, that's the reason we're doing this is because they gave us they didn't notify.
are you recommending specific language, Steve?
I'm a very bad extemporaneous speaker. But I would say whereas, timely notification was not given. And so the board would not otherwise have the opportunity to comment prior to, after it's at its next full board meeting, something like that.
Okay,
And Jason either agrees or disagrees, I'm not sure, but because he always smiles.
No, I don't have a problem with them, but it's separate, unrelated, never mind.
okay. All right, can we vote on that?
That's that comment.
Okay,
On the board.
Yeah, please comment.
I remain concerned with, and without knowing what the comments are, authorizing comments to be made. Sort of without having had the opportunity to like either retroactively review or. In some way had the board provide feedback on it, and I think what we're passing here. Allows a group, unnamed group of people to provide comments that are unclear exactly what comments. I'm uncomfortable with the idea of a position being taken by the board without it being voted on by the board at any point. And I think this reso gives this allows for that to happen. Am I wrong on that? That's what this is intended to do?
It's I mean, basically, it is intended to allow our Land Use and Waterfront Committee to make comments on the DEIS.
But not specifying what those comments are.
That's correct.
I'm uncomfortable with that.
I understand you distrust the land use committee, I get that, but.
It's not that I distrust the committee, it's just that I don't know if I'm gonna agree with what comes out of that, and then I don't know if I don't like the idea of. I don't like the precedent that sets effectively.
Well, I don't think we should put a laundry list where we should be commenting. It should be more freeform. Because I'm sure there's going to be things coming up that are not under those topics.
I do actually agree with Jason. I mean, I've never liked the idea of delegating the authority to the committee to say what, to put in words the sort of vague concept. So I am concerned about that. But if there were a way that we could vote, we could meet on Zoom and just
Well,
vote on.
our meetings are public.
Right, I'm saying
Yeah.
if we could announce an ad hoc meeting just to take this vote.
I don't know why people are looking at me.
So Sandy, I think we're caught.
Yeah,
And I think the question is, we have to trust the committee.
yeah.
And I think I'm comfortable trusting that we'll do major issues to get our comments on it. And I'd like to use what Jesus said is, have it's the 10th and bring it up at our meeting to affirm or not affirm the following day.
Yeah, and I think also by mentioning, as Stuart suggested, that we didn't get timely notice, we're sort of saying this is an unusual circumstance, and therefore I would support this.
Jason,
Can we put that in this resolution that we will? We'll ratify it by, we'll be comfortable with it if we can do that.
okay, again, do you have some,
Well, any resolution that happens here still has to go to full board. So, well, I guess what can happen is, once the comments are drafted, they can be incorporated into this. And so the version that will be in your packet at full board will be this plus all the text that all the comments, so that we'll see the whole thing.
I withdraw my comment. I feel like we're circumventing the resolution process here, and I'm uncomfortable with it. And I think procedurally, I don't think this is within our proper procedures. It's just my take.
I share your concern, and I certainly wouldn't want being in a similar situation and not knowing what was being said in my name without having a chance to vote on it. But I will just share, like, the magnitude of this is where we feel as a committee worth commenting on. There's a lot of, we find very problematic issues with the construction, and we think their voice needs to be heard by the 10th. I mean, the other potential workarounds are we can include in the comments that we are in fact members of, without saying we're speaking for.
Well, if you, by that extension, this is a public comment period, so any member of the public who can write can comment. So anyone who wants to put down whatever they want to put down, so long as they're doing it in their own capacity as a private citizen, they can comment to their heart's content. And they still get into the record, still gets before whatever panel or people are reviewing these comments. That is a possibility.
and I guess the other thing what we could do is give ourselves a deadline a few days before full board and before this is finally has to be completed, and have an executive meeting and review it there, and then at least it's passed a committee.
I would support that. That's what I'm concerned about, is that there'll be no vote on this before by any committee.
I'll be here June 4th.
I can make it.
So, we'll do a poll for an emergency meeting, but I think it's going to have to be early June, because we need, it does take some time to go through this and make reasonable comments. So we'll have a special meeting by the executive committee to review and potentially pass this, and then it will go to full board. So maybe we'll send out a poll and see, we just need quorum. That means people have to be here to vote.
Or special circumstances, which maybe a special meeting is special circumstances? Extenuating circumstances?
Actually, it is. Isn't that in the B?
Does everybody have to be here to vote to get quorum?
If we have a special meeting, is the fact that it's a special meeting extenuating circumstances, which allows us to attend remotely
Well, that's the absentee thing. It says you won't get marked as absent if there's a non-scheduled meeting.
Right.
Yeah, I'm asking in context of the open meetings law.
We'll keep it brief. We'll make sure it's,
I can make it in person, or I can.
but we'll send around a poll, I guess, to see, because actually there aren't that many nights, are there, that are not taken with meetings already?
I mean, on some level, perhaps the perfect night would be the 9th, because it's right before the deadline, so it gives you the maximum amount of time to write this thing. That's already taken by budget. Unless they want to sacrifice their night. A wilder idea might be we do a special full board meeting that night. We need to get a room that's big enough, unless we can pack everyone in here.
Why does that solve the problem?
Because then you'll have full board's backing on whatever comments, and then they can be submitted the next day by the deadline.
But then we need 25 people.
Why?
26.
Why couldn't we just have our meeting, since we would just be discussing this resolution, the same night as budget, and perhaps push budget back by half hour?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, that's
infeasible?
always-
Can they happen in conflict with one another? Could we do this special meeting somewhere else? Does it have to be here?
It needs to be public.
Yeah.
We only have one Zoom,
Yeah.
and people will invariably want to be on Zoom.
But if this would be the only agenda item for that special meeting,
It could-
it wouldn't take more than a
Half
half
an
hour.
hour.
Assuming people actually stick to that, I always hear, it's just this, and then they.
Can we get a second Zoom?
Not easy.
You can't make it June 9th? is
No, I
that-
can.
Let's plan for
that's
June
fine.
9th, 6 o'clock, half an hour. And we'll make sure we get this information out.
For those of us who don't have our calendars with us, could we poll just to confirm?
Okay. But that's what we'll try and do.
I just want to say we also could just not have a budget meeting for June. I don't think we have anything that urgent on the agenda for June. Nad and Steve had conflicts, so I'm on here, so I would confirm with them, but I think if you needed to, that would be okay with the committee.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's plan on that. All right. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Okay, so June 9th, there is a special exec meeting, or is this a special full board meeting?
I think it's exact.
Exact, yeah, I wouldn't call.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
6:30, 7?
You tell me.
it's difficult for you to come.
No, Mondays I can
Okay.
make it happen.
6:30?
Yeah.
We'll say 6:30.
I'm sorry, what day is that?
It's a
Monday.
Monday.
The 9th.
June 9th,
there's a
6:30.
Does this
special-
give enough time to change anything for the 10th?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. All right, moving on.
Andy, I don't think I'll be able to be there because my dad's in town that day. Would I be able to is there another way I can, I mean, if there's quorum, I don't need to be there, but is there another way I can kind of help out with it?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't vote. We don't have like, proxy or anything. So, but, you know, we'll see how we do. We'll
Okay,
make
okay.
who can commit. Okay, thank you. All right, committee meetings in June, starting with transportation.
All right, we have a very jam-packed meeting, for June, it might be one for the records. I think most of the committee is gonna be okay with that. I apologize to Brendan, and I'll have to apologize to him in person. For what I assume will be a very long meeting. So first thing, while Jesus is pulling it up, I know offhand, we have a proposal for 34th Street busway from DOT. They've already started presenting that to some of our, or both of our neighboring boards. So they'll be coming to us for comment on that. They're also talking to us about a double bus lane on Madison Avenue. We have like 4 half blocks of that segment, my understanding is CB5 was in favor of it, so I don't think we're gonna have a lot of comment on it. But we're impacted nonetheless. And then we also have a proposal from DOT on complete street for Third Avenue between 24th Street and 59th Street, which is something the committee has been asking for a very, very long time. I anticipate the committee supporting all 3. I don't think there'll be huge discussions. I think the big question is what kind of public comment do they attract? They may attract a lot of opinions. I don't know. My guess is they may have a bunch of people that are interested in talking about all of them. So I think those take up a fair amount of time, and then we've also got an open street for application for Washington Irving Education Campus on Irving Place. Don't expect that to be controversial. I think we leave 6 on the agenda, but I suspect we end up skipping it.
I think you should let people know, because I think people will want to come and talk about that.
The NYPD thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm open to leaving it on there. I think it's gonna be 10 PM by the time we reach that.
Well, just I mean, then take it off.
I'm open to taking it off as well.
Meaning gone forever, or bumped to a July meeting, or bumped to September?
I think we bump it to September. I'm not really sure, to be honest, what meaningfully we can do about this issue, in the fact that there's no legislation for us to comment on. It's really just a policy of NYPD.
I mean, we could piggyback and call some legislators.
Well, maybe that's something, again, we ask questions at
Yeah,
full
I forget,
board.
I've seen at least one elected come out against it. I could look into that.
So,
And why, just because something's administrative rather than legislative, wouldn't we?
I mean, we could pass a resolution asking NYPD to stop doing this, but it's not gonna do anything at all. So I wouldn't want to,
Well,
because
I mean, resolutions aren't our only tool, right? If we have a discussion, it's an opportunity. I mean, you want a discussion, but I just don't think. I think if you're gonna do it, you have to let people know that they're gonna have to stay until 10 o'clock to discuss it.
we can leave it on. It's gonna be a doozy of a meeting.
Personally, I would take it off and plan, if you wanna have a discussion, have another meeting or do it.
Let me think about the July meeting. I don't know. I think I might be hung for doing a meeting till 10 PM and then also a July meeting. So, I don't know.
Well, maybe in new business, you just ask if there's, interest in pursuing this as a special meeting, and then you'll know.
So I guess we'll remove it from your June agenda. You will sleep on it.
Yeah,
And
that's-
let us know whether it'll come back in July or in September.
Done.
Or
Done the deal. Thank you.
And Rashma, you have your hand raised. Was there something?
Yeah, I was going to, I mean, I guess it's being taken off. So, and one of the things, even at our, like meetings on budget, sometimes people show up for other issues, and we've had people come and complain about being afraid of cyclists, right? And so now the cops, I think, you know, they've said, the NYPD said they're doing this because they've got a lot of community complaints on this. And so while we don't have legislation to comment on, the NYPD won't listen to us, but we could talk about, do we want a resolution to ask them to pass legislation?
Yeah, I guess that's, yes, we could do that. It's a good suggestion. Thank you for the suggestion. I will think about it as Susie's pointed out, and we'll figure out what we want to do with this.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I just want to bring it up because we've heard complaints from people, so that's, you know, it's just something.
No, thank you. That's helpful.
Okay, so we're
We're gonna take it off for now. I'm gonna
just,
figure out what to do.
okay, okay, all right,
We'll speak.
okay. And then public safety and sanitation? Is
What
there-
happened to parks and landmarks?
I don't know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. So, no, it's okay. We'll have the parks representative. She'll be here. She was out last month, and then also with the district statement of the needs and budget request. So we'll go through each park and just discuss like.
What they need.
I guess like, at first, letting everyone on the committee know what the parks are. Some people may not know which parks we have in our districts. I think one that's really good, and then we can also talk about which parks have water. And then, because we'll have the representative from the Parks Department, if there's any questions, she can provide more insight or projects that she foresees or, but yeah, that's what we'll do.
And have you had any budget requests from, I know the libraries quite often have them?
So, no, we haven't had anything, and I finally did get in contact with someone with, the Third Avenue Library in Kids Bay.
Kips Bay,
And they said that every year they send, I guess, a district needs statement to the office. And then that's when they state what it is to be, what they've been doing that annually.
so I think if it goes to the office, that the committee still has to ask to have it put on. as-
Yeah, that's why I told
Okay.
her, she asked me if I want.
Okay, so that'll come up, you can address that,
Yeah.
Okay.
Once we get it, we send it.
okay,
Yeah. But we did inquire about it, I haven't got it.
great, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, so. All right, now we go to public safety and.
Actually, I have a question. On June fourth, there's going to be a virtual meeting of the urban forest plan project, it's sort of a kickoff meeting. They've been having a series of kickoff meetings. I believe Sandy attended one in person up in East Harlem. And there's gonna be a virtual one for those who can't get out to the various in-person locations. Is anyone from the Parks Committee going to that? I know there's some interest from
You
even
can,
some.
send it over to me. I know that was there, that it was just in person, but if there's also a Zoom option, you can send that over. And then also what we can do, you, Brian, send an email to let the committee know that that is an option. If anyone would like to attend.
Okay. All right, and in the news, in the blast, most recently, there is a survey that Sandy made us aware of, from her attendance at the previous one, for the entire public to comment on their thoughts on the urban forest plan. So we'll keep that in the blast and the newsletters until they tell us not to.
Okay. Sorry, public safety and sanitation.
So, the 13th precinct couldn't meet with us last month. We'll meet with them this month. We haven't gotten a confirmation yet. We understand the commanding officer can't make it, but one of the executive officers might, and we're still looking for somebody to speak specifically about the quality of life unit. So we will see if they come. It will be an opportunity. We have met with the commanding officer there once before, but we really do need to develop a better rapport with both of our commanders. We had a good session, initial session last month with the 17th precinct. The next two items, we are waiting to hear from Keith Powers' office. They said they're looking for somebody to speak to Intro 1262, and we're looking to Myri or Lasher to talk to S613. These were already on our resolution for on discovery that we pulled last month because Hochul Hochul's negotiations were not what she threatened them to be, basically. So these are probably not controversial issues about just helping creating technology and administrative ways that prosecutors can have direct access to police records so that they can collect the evidence without having to wait for NYPD to provide it. And one of the reasons that prosecutors were complaining is they were saying, we don't have enough time, and we don't have enough resources to get this stuff, and sometimes NYPD doesn't give it to us. So this is simply, trying to get the technology in place. If we do get the police commander, or the 13th precinct, they can bleed into this, so they can comment on getting evidence to the prosecutor. And then the next comment, the next agenda item, is also basically adopted from the resolution that we pulled. Hochul's proposition was fairly radical, and certainly many of the defense bar said it rolled back the discovery statute to before. You don't want to
Too much info. We'll come to the committee meeting.
Okay, so that's it. We're just basically rehashing it, but we're rewording it since it didn't happen. So we're simply saying if it should happen in the future.
And I understand, I think it's the 13th precinct that has the new community policing plan.
Well, it's a citywide thing.
But I thought their district.
They have
The
a,
Q team, it's a pilot program for a few months. The 13th precinct is one of the guinea pigs, so to speak.
Yeah,
It's sort of the successor to the, what do they call it? The NCO, the Neighborhood Community Officer Program.
so maybe they can explain that too, because the 17th didn't have it, right?
right,
So,
they do.
yeah,
If it goes well, if the pilot goes well, then it will be rolled out citywide.
yeah. Okay, so if you can ask them to talk about that too.
We have an invitation out to the lieutenant who is the head of the Q team
Okay,
pilot. Once, if they confirm, we will let student.
What does Q team stand for?
Quality of life.
Okay.
okay. Budget and governmental affairs. Is that Reshma, are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna fill in for Nad tonight.
Okay,
So at our meeting this month, we had someone come from the Commission on Racial Equity, and they presented to us the background of why they were set up based on a ballot initiative and what kind of data they've been collecting. And then they asked for our support in getting the data released because the mayor's office has been holding that up since March. And so I think what I heard from Steve is that there was an email that was sent from the office. And in the meantime, we've also prepared a resolution if needed to send out. We were going to ask the mayor's representative at our full board meeting this month, but the representative didn't come, so we didn't get a chance to ask that question. I also, at the beginning of this meeting, you talked about holding a public meeting on local law 11, and that is one of the topics that we had as an agenda item, and we have discussed in the past. In particular, Tanya Arias, who is on our committee, is also a real estate agent, and she has heard a lot of complaints from buildings in our district about the burden of the cost of local law 11. So, if and when that happens, we should definitely involve her as well as other people. Steve also is on his condo board and is also really interested in that topic. The other thing that we were looking at was the charter review, the commissions, and if there were any comments that we wanted to give on that. The last meeting for comments is on May 28th, which would have been before our June meeting, but that was something that we were kind of all looking at.
And just, Community Board 8 sent us a link to, they had someone come and present about ranked choice voting. Which was really interesting. I'm not sure if that's, but I mean, it has to be before June 24th.
Yeah, it has to be before June 24th. And so they had, I logged on to that. There was because I got an email for the Zoom meeting they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that. And yeah, I mean, I guess we could do a similar meeting. I mean, it would be good for the public because I mean, I feel like the people in our committee and our board are engaged and know.
Yeah, I mean, it really was meant to be for the public.
Public.
Yeah. But is it official you're canceling your meeting or?
Well, I mean, I don't want to make that decision for Nad and Steve. I mean, we could also push it to, you guys said 6:30. If it's going to be a half hour, we could push it to 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I started writing that email and I've CC'd you and Jesus and Brendan on that email to them to ask what they want to do.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If you want to do, we could do a public meeting because that would be a perfect time to do it June 9th before early
Yeah.
voting starts. Rank choice voting, and we could get someone to make the presentation. I'm also, I could make that presentation also.
Okay. Great. All right,
So, budget might be canceled.
Might
It is
be, yeah, we're not
canceled
gonna-
yet. You guys will let me know like tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, I mean, I just don't want to make the decision since I'm not the chair, right? So I want to just check with Ned.
Okay.
okay, health and environment, Elvie.
Yes, so we have 2 agenda. The first one is a presentation by Brad Kahn of Mount Sinai regarding the health services available to the community in the wake of the Beth Israel Hospital closure last month. And the second one is the discussion of support and support from the Psychiatric Outreach and Rehabilitative Treatment Act. And Rupal is gonna be the new chair, so she will be hosting the June meeting. And I'm gonna be out, I'm gonna be traveling June, July, and August.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
And who sponsored support? Is that a state?
it's state, yeah.
Yeah,
It came out of the discussion of the Health Act, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a discussion of the health act.
Okay, housing and homelessness.
Continuation of what we have discussed for the past couple of months while Rich was chair. However, with the caveat that we would like to wrap up the preliminary results of the housing study. As well as the statement of district needs, because we'd like to wrap both of those things up in June. So I guess Jesus, the only change I'd have here is replace continued, to perhaps final preliminary discussion. We can work out we can work out the exact word later, but I don't anticipate that there will be there will be continued discussions of the housing survey, but I think it'll look a lot different in the fall. So we can work out kind of the course of action.
I might advise just to give you a little bit of flexibility to leave it this way, because the whole final sounds very alpha and omega.
Okay.
Kind of very
So then-
final type of stuff.
Okay, I'll take your guidance on that. No other changes to the agenda, but do I reserve the right to add things to this following the executive committee meeting? So if there are changes between now and.
Sometimes it's a real surprise.
That's what chairs do, yes.
Because as you know, as we were discussing before with the development and housing things, the Manhattan Plan and the Freedom Plaza and Sandy, you sent me something about
Yeah,
venture earlier
and
today.
Yeah,
I may add 1 or 2 more items between now and.
Okay.
June.
okay, great, thanks. Land use and water.
Okay, so we're in an interesting position where we have like a million irons in the fire and not like a really hard, good topic to talk about. I mean, I'd like to probably mull over cancellation, but I think maybe not, because I want to look at the final comments from the housing committee. We want to try and do all the prep work with DCP to get them in front of the committee. We're trying to talk to DCP about a resiliency study north of 25th Street. We've floated an idea last night with Maya, to possibly talk to DEP, where there's a lot of curiosity on the board about the city's water supply and aquifers. And we are trying to educate the committee so we can really start making more informed decisions. So everything is kind of tentative right now. There's a lot of chicken and egg stuff, but right now, that's it.
And actually there is, there's work on the wall north of 25th because they mentioned it at Spark. And I don't know, I can't remember, I mean, EDC knew about it. So it's probably, I believe it's DDC that's doing it, but there is a proposal. They're tying into it, so.
And we might have to talk to DDC about I did talk to Keith Power's office today about the pinch point and all that's gonna go on with that construction there. They're gonna help modify that RFP.
Okay. Excellent.
Why is it being modified?
Actually,
Patrick, sorry, go ahead. I'll let-
the Patrick Brown Walk, which is
Yes.
the part, is gonna have to be taken offline while they do the pinch point, solve the pinch point problem. And our committee asked, I think quite rightly, well, can we take this opportunity to fix the Patrick Brown Walk as well? And they said, it's not in the RFP. We're trying to get into the RFP for reasons unclear to any living human. The small business office of the city controls Patrick Brown Walk.
That's news to me.
Yeah.
It was DOT.
No,
SBS
SBS.
controls a lot of waterfront properties.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So that complicates amending the RFP.
Very historical reading.
We're solving a lot of problems behind the scenes.
I mean, I agree with you that it's broken in a number of ways, but from your perspective, what's the problem with Patrick? Sorry, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I apologize.
We'd like it renovated at the very least.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Okay,
And that's it.
okay. All right. Youth and education is
Yeah, we're gonna hold a meeting, we're gonna cancel the May meeting because, but we actually have a really interesting topic, we're gonna have someone come from the, National Network for Youth, who, Katie Landa actually called to our attention a meeting that they held on homelessness among youth. And, we managed to get one of their people to come to our meeting in June, and I was gonna reach out to Rich, but now Alec, to see if we can get some people on your committee as, panelists on that meeting. And I'm also gonna reach out, I know PS 116 has concerns about a large homeless population, so we're gonna reach out to several schools as well and a couple of electeds, yes.
So just last night, my Coral colleague was honored. She's the board president of CCC, which is Citizens Community for Children.
Okay.
That is their focus, including New York City. They're
Well, let's
international.
figure out
So
how.
I can get Lauren if she's available.
That would be great, because let's loop them in, because the people I talked to the executive director of the NN4Y, National Network for Youth, and they work with people already in the New York City area, so I think there could be a there, for the board, so it's worth pursuing, and it gets us off to a good start for the committee in the fall. Then we'll continue with the district being statement.
Okay. Bulk.
I don't have anything but June, 34 items coming up on the 29th.
Closer to 40 now.
Closer to 40, okay.
How much closer to 40 can you get than 39?
39.
39, all right.
Okay,
And usual mixture of sidewalk, roadway, cannabis, liquor license, mixture. I don't think we're gonna have much time to discuss anything else.
okay. Sounds good, and hopefully nothing controversial. All right, if any member of the committee has any old or new business, please raise your hand. Okay, if
I have
there,
a quick question, Sandy.
oh, sure, just,
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the meeting that we had, a full board meeting this month with I thought it was a little bit it made me a little bit uncomfortable how some of those people like I understood the concern of the Gramercy Park people, but I was a little uncomfortable how they I would say it felt very rude, kind of how they were interrupting everybody.
yeah.
Is there like I'm I wanted to listen to their arguments. I care about how they about their concerns, but what's the in a situation like that, like what's because that was kind of the first time I'd experienced community members coming in and being and interrupting people when they were told not to. How does that usually work, or what have you seen in the past? Was that a rare situation, or is that common?
Have personally experienced it before. I don't know other people. It is sort of, I think it's a bit unusual in our district. We don't typically have that kind of response.
I can think of one other time we had a situation like this regarding, was it Flintstone, I think it was.
Yeah.
They were more polite, I think.
Yeah.
So they be careful.
With the community people came in to talk about the Gramercy Park Hotel. Appeared to have an agenda that was not in keeping with what the rest of the community wants. So we're going to explore that an offline meeting with these representatives and representatives of the Gramercy Park Hotel, and to see if we can come to a accord.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question about that is why didn't they just come to the bulk meeting? Because there was these accusations of the, people in the community.
They claim that the committee poster that was put onto the front of the hotel, along with the various other DOT things that are required, or the Department of Building requirements, was not readily accessible or seeable by members of the community. I find that a little disingenuous, but that's what they said.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment that I thought they did a good job of corralling that response.
Oh,
Good.
Yeah,
Remaining
you
hand.
used the gavel.
Yeah, I was impressed with the gavel use. It was very appropriate gavel use, yeah.
I think it's the first time I've ever seen it used.
As I said, I just want, I don't like getting too legalistic. And I've been in situations where I went to board meetings before I was on the board, and things were discussed, and and they said, we reached out to the community, you had an opportunity. And I had been paying attention and never saw, notice about. So I think, I don't know what happened in this particular circumstance. But I wonder why they didn't come to your meeting if they knew about it. So I mean, I would suggest the possibility that they were sincere and they didn't see it. And this was, and they, again, they sounded like they were all willing, both sides were willing to have a discussion. It's not as if they wouldn't talk to each other. So they didn't seem profoundly unreasonable. They just should have, spoken in their turn and then.
Well, the question is, we only require, I guess, one piece of paper in the public place, whether it's a liquor license, a cannabis license, or any of the other approvals we put through.
That's like, the notice, once again, the notification in the back of the Irish Times, it's like that's the legal notice. But realistically, no one is reading that stuff. I think there's
I'm sorry,
no, I think that there have to be times, I mean, I like rules. And I understand why they exist, but I also understand that sometimes they don't work the way they're supposed to. And if people are willing to have, if people are angry in our community and they want to have a discussion, I think, if the time is available, then we should afford them that opportunity.
And we let them speak. We didn't cut anybody off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the reality is they spoke,
Yeah.
just cutting, and whatever the reason they spoke there and not in this room, that's now in the past.
I just want to mention that I read through every one of the emails that was sent to me.
You said.
I believe.
with that, within 4 hours of the meeting. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And many of them mentioned something that we weren't even discussing,
Yeah.
something, building going up to 38 Gramercy Park North.
Yeah, I was puzzled by
Yeah.
that, actually. Remember reading
Well,
that.
and Gabe made the point that we don't look at the sins of prior proprietors. That was lost from that.
Yeah,
Because it always circled back to history.
history,
Yes,
right?
That was Kyle, but I thought it was really smart, so I'll take it.
I don't think there was anything wrong with them having spoken at full board. I think it was sort of, I think it would have been better if they came to the committee meeting, but I think it's sort of the process working that they saw it on the full board agenda and had an opportunity to comment, right? So I don't know. I think it was contentious, but it was fine.
Okay, great. All right, meeting is adjourned, seeing no further business, the meeting's adjourned at 8:13.
Thank you.
Next fan to go watch.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about Baltimore a lot. There's no way to do like.
Jerry,
five
can you send me
residents
those-
in
Take care,
text, like,
everyone.